Good. Start. And the RCW is correct, right? So we're still going to do just for 20 minutes. 2 minutes. I'm going to have Craig stand and do the time sheet. Can I ask him to come up here to do the time sheet?
Sure. It's right back there.
But nobody has signed it.
It's by the mask. So we want to, we can make that enough. Yeah. Hey, Craig, do you mind moving over there
To do the 2 minutes.
to do the timing? Sure. Yeah.
And then anybody that we can't do in 2 minutes within that 20 minutes, time,
Yeah.
they can send an email.
Sure.
Okay, that sounds great.
Actually, I do my. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Eddie U-Haul.
Okay. Well, your mic's working. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 10th, 2021 regular school board meeting. Let's all stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I know we have quite a crowd here tonight. And so if you're here to address the board, I would like to ask you to make sure you sign in on the sign-in sheet that's right there at the pillar. And so as we move through, the first item is the approval of the revised agenda.
Move to approve the revised agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Jeslyn, seconded by Jeannie. Are there any comments on the revised agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the revised agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, so all yes. Thank you. All right, protocol for addressing the board. This is the time during the meeting that we set aside 20 minutes to listen to our community. And it's your time to bring information to the board's attention, solving a problem, or simply to see what's going on. We always are willing to listen to your concerns. We do ask that you sign in, if at all possible, before the start of the meeting. We do follow the COVID protocol. So we do ask that you, if you're not wearing a mask, we do ask that you put a mask on. We do have extra masks on the counter here. And so we ask that those that aren't wearing masks, please put one on. When you come to the microphone, we ask that you state your name clearly, first name and last name, and spell your name so that we have that for the record. Do not reflect adversely on the political or economic views, ethnic background, character, or motives of any individual. Do keep your comments concise, non-emotional, and brief. I want to state further that with masks, I have found that they do limit the rejection of our voices, and everyone needs to speak much louder than they normally would. We're going to ask you to come to this desk to speak. I routinely have to remind guests to speak up when addressing the board. I recognize that it's not always easy to step forward to share your thoughts, and I'm sorry if this makes the process more difficult for you. But if we cannot hear you clearly, I will stop you and ask you to speak louder. So given that, can I have someone please bring the list of people that are wanting to speak tonight? And again, we set aside 20 minutes during the meeting, and each guest is allowed 2 minutes. Mr. Yeah, Craig over here. He will signal you when your 2 minutes is almost up. And I do ask that when you receive your signal that you please wrap it up so that the next person in line has a chance to speak. Okay, first person is Gertie. Welcome, Gertie.
Do you have a green light?
Yeah, on the mic. Oh, just
All right. My name is Gertie DeSallier. My last name is Desallier. And my pronouns are she, they. So I grew up in Prosser. I graduated in 2015 from the high school here. I was never an academically inclined person, and I really didn't have the easiest time in high school. And something that made it a lot harder for me was my senior year of high school. I realized I was queer, and that's really scary. That's really scary for a lot of kids. I knew I wasn't safe to come out at home, and I knew that I wasn't safe at school to come out because I know that it would find a way back to my family. Only my closest friends knew, and I started getting asked questions by my classmates if I was gay or bisexual, and I knew I couldn't answer them. Pretty soon it turned into bullying and harassment from friends of friends and people I hardly knew, and even the teacher. It's really hard to be in high school or middle school as part of the LGBTQ community because, as Peggy said, you know, this is a conservative community and you're not wrong. And that's really scary here. It can often be really scary at times for these kids. And that's why I think it's important to check on these kids specifically, because they are a vulnerable part of our community. When I was in high school, I wish someone had been there and asked me how safe I felt at high school, or had a trusted teacher like Mr. Crook, who spoke at the last meeting, who I could talk to about these things. I completely support Mr. Bailey in this decision to put up this optional survey. What I don't support is this complete overreaction to the survey. What I want to pose the question to you all, especially the board, would there still be this big of an issue if the survey wasn't about something other than LGBTQ issues? We really have to stand up for these kids. They're a vital part of our community, and we have to create a safe space, welcoming spaces where gender identity and sexuality are respected and acknowledged.
Gertie, I'm sorry. It's fine. Thank you.
Oh no, I had like one more sentence.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, oh no, it's fine. We're good. I just was going to say that I don't want anyone else to have to go through what I went through.
Thank you.
Gertie, what was the question that you wanted to ask? Because I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, I was just asking that if the survey that y'all were talking about last week that was given by Mr. Bailey and okayed by him, but if it wasn't about LGBTQ issues, would it have been this big of a deal to send out the survey? Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
The next person on the list is Jessica Huntington. Hi, thank you, Jessica.
Jessica Huntington, Huntington. Good evening. As an educator of humans in the Prosser School District, I'm here to speak on behalf of myself and my colleagues who have joined me. We are here to support all students in the Prosser School District, no matter their race, ethnicity, values, religion, gender identity, or sexual orientation. We would specifically like to voice our support for the students that spoke at the last board meeting on October 27th. The Prosser School District's mission statement says to educate, graduate, and empower all students to become responsible and contributing members of society. The word empower means to make someone stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. 2 weeks ago, 2 students represented empowerment at this board meeting, and it took it upon themselves to speak up for their peers' well-being in support of creating the GSA Club. Research shows that in the aftermath of COVID-19, teen mental health is in a crisis. LGBTQIA+ are already at high risk, especially when not supported by their community. Studies have shown that simply having a GSA club or something similar reduces suicide risk for all students, regardless of gender identity or sexual orientation. Our students have stepped up and spoken in support of each other. To speak in front of district leaders and people of our community took both tremendous courage and confidence. Unfortunately, the students were responded to with condescending remarks, while other community members were allowed to question the board, given more time to speak, and one speaker even granted opportunity to readdress the board. To the students who were brave enough to speak up, as educators, we see you, we support you, and we applaud you for a job well done. We have heard time and time again that teaching is all about creating relationships. Creating those relationships comes from accepting and supporting all students. This acceptance does not just come from inside our classrooms. It starts from the top with district leaders and works its way down to us in the classroom. As educators that are sitting together tonight, we ask that our school board and our district administration show support for all students. It is time that we live out our mission statement. We must empower all humans in our classrooms. Thank you.
Sarah Miller. Please, let's follow things for everybody if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, my name is Sarah Miller. I have 3 children currently attending Prosser, and I will have another one next year who will be in kindergarten, and I have one that's graduated. So I have a question for the board. You probably cannot answer it, but I think it's something that needs to be brought up before it occurs. Also, I'd like to say I'm a certified medical assistant and an immunization coordinator, and I'm currently employed by the state of Washington. I would like to know your stance on a COVID vaccine mandate for our children and also administering that vaccine at the schools. Correct. That as well. I can tell you that if that happens, all of my children will be withdrawn without a second thought. I can also tell you if I am forced at my place of work to administer that vaccine to children 5 to 11, I will quit my job on the spot. That's how firmly I believe about this. And I am terrified for my children. And I also don't want to have to withdraw them from public schools. I don't think that that's fair. And I also want to know what your stance is, or if you have prepared for there to be a mass exodus if this happens, for all of us to withdraw our kids, because we need to realize that if we don't have kids, we don't have a public school system. So I know that there has been so many mandates and your guys' hands have been tied. I say you guys, I mean the whole school district, all school districts, with the masks and all of the COVID rules and everything. But I just want to say, I think that it is going to have to come to a point where we as parents and teachers and school board members are going to have to finally stand up for our kids and do what's right and stop doing what we're told. And I would just like to know what your stance is on that, if you have any at all, because this is going to be coming up soon.
Thank you. I'm probably going to kill this name, so I apologize in advance. But, pardon me?
I can say this, it has been something that we put on the agenda or discussed at a meeting. With the mandate as far as the vaccine for employees, that came down as an executive order from the governor. And so I'm sure that there will be some executive order or something come out maybe in the next few months. when that does come out, the district will have the option either to accept or reject. Now with the employee vaccination mandate, it was if you didn't comply, you would lose funding from the state. And there was a letter from, shoot, it was, I think, Kittitas School District that the OSPI Superintendent of Public Instruction, Chris Reichdahl, had sent and said, we are prepared to withhold funding. And so it puts a district in a tricky situation that if you don't comply, there won't be money flowing into your district. And so even if you have kids, you won't have the money. And so it's a little bit of a catch-22 there. We've had people specifically, you ran Mr. Rayner. It asked the same question about a week ago, I think, as far as vaccination mandates for children. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. And his opinion at the time was if California is probably doing it, it will travel north to Washington, or the perspective will travel north to Washington. So he encouraged us as well to discuss that and take a position on that. I will ask the board to consider it for one of our next agendas and ask board members to consider developing a stance or a statement that maybe we can put out.
Okay, the next, I believe, is it Delilah Forrester?
And I apologize, my handwriting is atrocious. Any of my teachers from the high school can attest to that. My name is Delilah, last name is Forrester, Forrister. And I am here to address the board regarding the potential formation of the GSA club that the high schoolers have requested at this point. In regards to it, I firmly support it as a community member and as a former graduate of Prosser High School. When I was attending high school, we didn't necessarily have an official ASB club. We didn't really have the ability to have the potential educational purposes that this club would be able to have. And a lot of bullying, as studies have shown, is because of lack of understanding, misunderstanding, and unfortunately, what people have pushed upon other people to try to get them to go with what they want. In regards to that, a GSA club would be able to potentially provide education in regards to how to properly handle things, especially when it comes to bullying or potentially coming out to one's family or friends. Typically, high schoolers are more apt to talk to their friends than anyone else about their personal problems because either they don't feel comfortable sharing those issues with their parents at the time, or they're not sure how to go about it. Realistically, I didn't come out to the world until 2019, but I've known most of my life that I was not in the standard spectrum. Even without having come out or admitting any of that, I dealt with massive amounts of harassment in my former school district because I moved here in 2014. I still dealt with harassment in high school and did not feel comfortable talking to the teachers or the staff simply because of the fact that the experiences I've had in schools simply shows that if I tell the teacher, all the teacher does is tell the parents of the kid, the parents reprimand the kid or don't, and it makes it worse the next day. A GSA club that provides like-minded individuals with the ability to congregate and discuss and learn and become better people in a healthier fashion has many benefits. That is all I would really like to say. However, I'm here in support of those students from last week as well. And that's all, again, that's all I've got to say.
So just like for your information, I think that the board really wants the best for kids and has the best interest of kids in mind. We haven't received a formal proposal at this time. The thing that says that there has to be formal proposal, there's no policy around this, so the board has to approve it, but it's within the ASB Constitution. in WASBO, the Washington State Association of Business Officials, says it's probably best practice that boards approve it. One of the reasons for that is so that they can create budget for it. And so there's two things that need to happen. The charter has already been brought to the student council. That's check off the list. The board needs to approve a formal proposal for the club. So that needs to be brought to the board. An advisor also needs to be hired. And so there's a little bit of some moving there with including that in a collective bargaining agreement is a new position. So that person can receive a stipend for it, posting for it. And so I think the board's open to consider that. But at this time, a formal proposal hasn't been brought forth by our athletic director / director of student activities, Mr. Laska, just asked him to do that based upon what had transpired at the last meeting. So I think that we're all willing, recognize that there is a need for this and want to provide inclusive environments for our children. But there has been no formal proposal or even the hiring of an advisor to help lead this club. So there's been steps taken as far as approving the charter with the student body council, but the rest of the things that we have to put a bow on is hiring an advisor as well as have a formal approval or a formal proposal sponsored by basically a building leader or district director brought to the board making recommendation.
And I appreciate hearing that. I was mostly trying to figure out how to ask for that information specifically. So thank you.
Okay. I have one more on the list, so I'm gonna do this one. Yeah, that'll subtract some of it. So, Mr. Dillahunt.
Brett Dillahunt, DillahunT. I've been teaching in the Prosser District for the past 29 years. I don't know that there's a lot that I can add to the speakers that have already spoken up tonight, especially the young people and the two people that spoke. But there were a couple of points I wanted to contribute as well. Part of our professional development as teachers is to consider the social and emotional health of all of our students. And I just want to reiterate that the students feeling safe and feeling a sense of belonging at the school where they learn is utterly integral to their academic success as well as their social and emotional health. So I wanted to tie a lot of this effort as well to the fact that it's very difficult for a student to succeed in a place where they don't feel safe. Since I have been here for almost 30 years, I've seen that firsthand. I have clients with Mustangs for Mustangs who were driven from the school system in my early career, who suffered from all sorts of high-risk situations, not only because of what they endured in the schools, but also just because of who they are. And so there's a moral and ethical, there's an educational imperative for us to support these students in their efforts. I also wanted to praise the students who came and spoke at the last meeting. They were absolutely courageous. Last but not least, I want to reiterate that I came here of my own volition. Nobody asked me to be here. Nobody asked me to address this board, and I think that's true of my colleagues as well. Thank you.
I know that there probably are plenty of other people that would like to have an opportunity to say something, both in the room and on Zoom. What I'm going to ask that you do is, if you have something on this topic or any topic that you would like to share, that you would go ahead and email our superintendent, Mr. Ellis, or you can also email me and I will pass them along to Mr. Ellis. We are always interested in what you have to say, and this is an important issue, and we do respect that this is very important for our kids.
And so it's also an issue that transcends numbers. And so my wife is actually in the room. She did her doctorate in equity and educational policy studies through the University of Washington. But one thing that she talks about or likes to talk about is this idea of a case of one. And so an equitable experience, if a child who's gay or lesbian, right, doesn't have the right experience, it shouldn't matter what the number of that is. That child is still important, and their experience is still important. So it's an issue that really transcends this idea of numbers and how many. If it impacts the life of one, it would be probably the right move, and it definitely is the right move. I think considering legally what is right as well. So yeah, I would just add that, and yeah.
So we're moving on to reports. And again, I thank everybody for coming tonight. The first report tonight is the curriculum and instruction. So Deanna, if you'd like to go.
Thank you. Just a couple quick things. I know there's a lot on the agenda, a lot of reports on the agenda tonight. Thanks everybody for being here. It's good to see your faces. For me, I just wanted to let you know, as far as filling teaching positions, the past several years has been challenging. Our numbers of applicants are down. We do have a lot of student teachers in our district right now. We have 12, so that's pretty exciting. We have at least 4 or 5 more placements. There are some people in this room that have some of our student teachers placed in their rooms or will be, and I appreciate their efforts because it maybe sounds like it's easy, but it's not. We also have a lot of other students doing the early practicums, 30-hour practicums, 40-hour practicums, depending on their college, university. So that's exciting. And just one more thing, we did have Orton Gillingham training this weekend, Saturday. Bless the 24 educators that spent their entire Saturday on an online training that was somewhat like a fire hose because there was so much to learn. We have some of those people in this room as well. There were a lot of teachers, coaches, and Cindy and myself attended that training, and that is a program that has been around for many, many, many decades and is well proven to support students who are experiencing dyslexia. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the designated board members have a question for you? All right, Mr. Reynolds.
Just quickly, you'll hear more from me later in the meeting. I just want to report that the year-end financials have been approved and reviewed by the Educational Service District in Pasco. And now they'll move that on up to the fiscal staff at the OSPI Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. And then once we get their certification, we will sign the year-end, and then I'll come up with a report and present up to the board.
Thank you. When do you anticipate having it?
It probably takes a couple of weeks for OSPI to sign off on that. So probably, maybe in December, maybe the second meeting in December. We'll see how quickly they give their approval to that.
Thank you. Okay. I appreciate all the director reports were all submitted to us and they are available for anybody that wants to review them online. I'm going to ask the board members if they've all had a chance to review them and if there are any questions about any of the director reports. Oh, do you have a question? On which one? Okay, go ahead. They weren't going to, I don't think your mic's on.
Okay, so
I think if you have a specific question, this is the perfect time to ask it.
yeah, I emailed you earlier. I don't know if you got it, it was too late in the day, but basically we've been getting the same questions. I got pulled up.
Can you hear him? Kevin, can you hear him?
Sorry, it was on. I got to pull up your report here. Sorry. it was basically on the process and protocols for the vaccinations towards not for the unvaccinated towards the vaccinated. And if that was, because I was told, I was under the impression that even though some things had said that they'd be treated differently, I was told that everybody was going to be tested and treated the same, whether it be masks or the testing. Is that true, or because it says different on the
Thanks, Mark. I saw your first one. I didn't see the second one, so I haven't got back to you on that one yet. Relative to the testing, the protocol, the guidance tells us that students who are in the high risk activities, those who are vaccinated would not have to test, but those who are not vaccinated would have to test at least 2 times a week. So your question sounds like, are we going to test everybody, not just those who are unvaccinated? We did do that for the dance this year that helped mitigate some of those questions. Right now, it's a matter of resources, be it tests, people, time, all of that, to be able to complete that on everybody versus just those who are unvaccinated. So if there's a direction that comes back to us that we need to do everybody, then we'll gear up for that. And it's just a matter of resources to be able to put the time, the tests, and all that together.
what we're hearing from the community is that it's either everybody's on the same page, or either everybody's wearing masks while they play or nobody is.
Right. And as far as masks and participation, if you are following the guidelines for, say, basketball or wrestling, if you are following the guidelines, which we all have to do in order to put somebody out there, you're either vaccinated or you're involved in the testing protocol, which we test 2 times a week. Those athletes, while they are competing or training, would not have to wear masks. That's the adjustment for those who are vaccinated and who are in the testing protocol. You can participate in no masks.
Okay, that clears it up. Then
Okay.
what's here on that, and then, but for the testing, if you're not vaccinated,
Then you'll
You're
be a
getting
part of the
tested.
testing program.
but if you are vaccinated, you're not getting tested.
Correct. So we at this point, unless somebody gives us direction where we need to test them all.
Okay,
But the protocol does not tell us that we have to test every day.
okay.
Did that help, Mark?
Yeah, I think that we need to take care of that, but yes.
Okay, did any of the board members have any other questions on the director report? Okay. Hearing none, thank you to all the directors. I like having the reports given this way, and I appreciate the time and the energy that went into those. So thank you very much. We're on to the superintendent's report, Mr. Ellis.
Okay, I just have a couple brief items. We started work on our website with Aptigee. So we've been working on transitioning our current website to a website that's app-based, so parents can download an app and communication will be more rapid, and we can get that out quicker. We hired a new executive assistant in the office, Celine Swearingen, who's in the back. So this is her first meeting. She's been doing just a great job, and she has a great attention to detail. We have recommended to hire a new maintenance director, Brian Aber. And so I know that a couple of you sat in on that interview. I'm very appreciative of that. But we felt like he'd do just a tremendous job, and we'll be transitioning him into the role that Dave Shell left. We do have a meeting coming up the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. At that meeting, we will be swearing in new board members once they're certified. There will also be the reorganization of the seats in the office, and so there will be some of the passing of torches, and we'll be reaching out to those candidates who will be transitioning into those positions. This past Saturday, we partnered with Prosser Memorial Hospital to do a vaccination booster clinic at PHS here. And then today I received a commendation that I wanted to read, with tomorrow being Veterans Day. Mr. Ellis, Prosser School Board of Directors, I want to express my appreciation to the Prosser School District, and specifically Mrs. Skeen and the Prosser High School leadership class for organizing the Veterans Day Assembly earlier today at the high school. The students and staff put together an impressive program to recognize and honor our local veterans. Traditionally, the event had been held each Veterans Day as all school assemblies in the gym, but due to COVID restrictions, this year's event was scaled down to follow health protocols and held in the auditorium at the new high school for the community veterans and their student family members. The school board and district administrators should be proud of the work and effort the staff and students at the high school put into making this a very special event. We were greeted at the door by students and presented with personalized thank you notes made by students from Keene Riverview Elementary. We were escorted to our seats by leadership class students and treated to a very nice brunch style breakfast. A video presentation was being given with a beautiful rendition of the national anthem performed by the Prosser High School Choir and followed with a video tribute to each of the military service branches. The presentation also included video tributes to PHS alumni veterans and interviews of a variety of current students expressing their appreciation and thankfulness for the service and sacrifices of the veterans. Following the video presentations, we were escorted out to the new lower level commons where we were greeted by all of the senior class of 2022, whom were arranged around the upper second floor balcony. I want to thank the PHS administration, Mrs. Skeen, excuse me, and her leadership class and all the students of the class of 2022 for the extremely thoughtful recognition of our community's veterans. We have much to be thankful for in this community. The honor, the patriotism, and the respect shown by our schools and students to our veterans is certainly among them. Thank you, Scotty Hunt. So not only were there recognition assemblies today, we also put a thank you in the Prosser Record Bulletin on behalf of the Prosser School District and Prosser School Board for people sacrificing and serving our country. So really, that's the foundation that has allowed free thought and ideas to exist within our country. So we're definitely grateful for that. So that is all I have to inform the board about tonight. Any questions on any of that information?
Board member reports. Mark, would you like to go first?
So we have made, or there's been headway on getting the wrestling club, the little guys and gals going. And I appreciate the work that Kevin's put into that to get AAU going. It's so important for so many people. And a lot of you took the time to come in here, so I'll take the time to talk to you for a second. I grew up in a alcoholic and abusive home, and the Natural Helper program was a huge part of my life from the time I was a little guy. And then when I was in high school, I became a natural helper myself. And the club that you guys have, the GSA club, is along the same lines of that from the sounds of it. And I think it's great. I think that pure relationship and digging into kids through other peers, because you're right, they're not going to come and talk to adults all the time. And I know that as a kid, I was afraid of them. And so I support it. I think it's just been a procedural thing. And that's just my 2 cents on the thing. Thank you for coming in, taking the time and caring.
I'll be quick. I attended my first migrant PAC meeting. Eric does a wonderful job. Thank you, Eric. I know he's out there somewhere. Don wanted me to comment on the Veterans Day program. He's 74 and he has never missed one of these. This is an example. The grade school kids do these. And the leadership class writes a personal thank you to all of the veterans. And it's deeply appreciated when they came out and all those kids were lined on that balcony and gave them a standing ovation. He's kind of a crotchety old guy, but I said, "Did you cry?" And he says, "No, I kept it under control, but I wanted to." But he said it just, he came home and wrote a thank you to the leadership club. and the advisor and took it to the high school. So I'm sure she got it late this afternoon. But he said it warms his heart to know that the children in our school district are being taught to respect and honor veterans, you know, because they've always been around. And then my 2 cents worth on the club. My 2 older grandchildren are seniors at Grand Canyon University. Yes. One graduated from Kamayakan and the other from, I just drew a blank on it. Anyway, both those schools had these clubs. My grandson was involved in leadership, worked closely with them. My granddaughter was involved in soccer and actually went to some of their lunch things with her soccer friends that were gay. In the bigger schools, nobody thinks anything of it. And they've been around for a long time. And I'm like Mr. Ellis, we want our kids to feel comfortable and accepted. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie. Jesselyn?
So I was able to attend the WASDA General Assembly, so the Washington State School Directors Association 2-day conference, and worked at voting and prioritizing what our district wants to see as the legislative positions priorities in January. And then just a couple of reminders for community stuff happening. The Veterans Day Parade is tomorrow at 11:11. And they start that near the library, stage that, and then go downtown. And then the theater's production of All Together Now is this weekend. And I'm sure Hannah would talk about it because she is performing as part of that. So tickets are on sale for that for Friday, Saturday, and a matinee on Sunday.
Great, thank you. And then for myself, I first want to address the veteran piece. Prosser does a wonderful job of always celebrating the people in our community that have served. And it just fills my heart. I looked at today's newspaper, Prosser Record Bulletin, and from cover to cover, Victoria has done just a great job of really showing our support for our veterans, and that's really special. And I know that our schools have always done a terrific job of celebrating our veterans, so that's a wonderful thing. And then this last week, I worked with Jeannie and with Matt on the, and who else was there? Deanna was there, and Cindy from the bus garage was there, and in interviewing and selecting the new maintenance supervisor. And we had some really, really good candidates for the position. And I think we're going to be happy with the person that was ultimately selected to fill that position. So onward, we're going to miss Dave. He's been here forever. He's been here 30 some years, I think. But anyway, we're going to really miss Dave, but it'll be interesting to see how Brian takes that department and moves it into the future. So that'll be great to watch. Okay. So student reports, who goes first? Ezekiel, do you want to go first?
I would just like to take some time to express my support for the eventual establishment of the GSA Club. Once it's been formally proposed, like Matt said, I don't think it's an issue. I think there's a wrong choice and a right choice. Monse isn't here, but I know that she feels the same way. Something else that I wanted to touch on today was about dress codes. I know that's something that we've talked about. From now till the time that I bring up my report next meeting, I plan on getting the board some numbers, some empirical data for you guys to take a look at from the student population. I haven't decided how I'm going to get that, whether that be through surveys or signatures or whatnot. But yeah, I would like to get you guys those numbers so you guys can get a feel of what the student population, at least at the high school, feels about certain policies that are currently in place. And I would like to end my report with a thank you to our veterans.
Thank you. Andreas, how are you today?
Hello, doing pretty good. So I would just like to just thank everyone who's here and it's just really great to see everyone. It's awesome. And I do want to share something that that's Hannah wanted to share as she wasn't able to be here once, and Hannah, do apologize for that. So Hannah did want to mention that about the Princess Theater is going to putting on that show, the All Together Now. 1 second. So yeah, it's going to be Friday and Saturday at 7:30 p.m., Sunday at 2:30 p.m. I also wanted to mention the play that's going to be put on by the high school, which I am a part of. Horatio Will Be Late, which is going to be on the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th at 7 p.m. It's $5 for students, I believe, and $7 for adults. And I really encourage everyone to go see that. I'm really looking forward to it.
What's the name of the play at the high school?
It's called Horatio Will Be Late.
Okay.
Yes.
Could I comment on this?
Sure.
Yeah, so that's actually one of my goals, is to help address that. This would be like a great time to do that, so we can talk about it and discuss it and come up with a proposal through the winter. And so hopefully it'll be put in place this spring. So we can bring something formally to the board. So yeah, I'd love to work with a group of students, some parents and community members, and help recraft and develop that policy to something that's agreeable, and we don't have that struggle anymore.
Thank you. Now, are you in the play, Andres? Are you in either one of those plays?
I'm in Horatio Will Be Late.
Okay.
Oh, also, I would like to mention, leadership did put on that Veterans Day assembly, and it was just really, I think it was really cool to be able to, I was part of the video that was put on. I was part of the whole committee. Once it was also part of the video committee. It was really, really nice to put that video together, and I really like how it turned out, and I'm really glad that we were able to honor vets that way.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you very much for the reports. We're moving on to the consent agenda, and this is revised. And the revision was, had to do with a change in the minutes. So everybody had a chance to review. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as revised.
Make a motion that we approve the consent items as revised.
Motion by Jeannie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. Is there any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, so all yes. Thank you very much. On to action items. The first action item tonight is the approval of vouchers. And so that would be the warrants. I would entertain a motion to approve the warrants as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Jeslyn,
I'll second.
seconded by Jeannie. Is there any questions or concerns regarding the warrants as presented? No, hearing none, all in favor of approving the warrants as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
so all yes. Thank you. The next action item is construction access and utility easement. I would entertain a motion to approve that.
Motion, we approve the action item, construction access and utility easement.
Okay, motion by Jeannie,
Second.
seconded by Mark. Is there any questions regarding the construction access and utility easement? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the construction action and utility easement as presented, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye,
Aye.
all yes then. All right, on to discussion items. The first discussion item is the EPO levy, which is educational programs and operations levy. And I believe I'm going to turn that over to Craig.
It's very good.
Thank you very much.
EPO.
Yeah.
Used to be called a maintenance and operations levy. Just wanted to get the board a little bit up to date on this. We need some decisions made rather quickly. So I believe this is just kind of a start of the conversation. I believe the board would like to have probably a study session before too long.
Okay.
Let me just give you a little bit of history of the educational programs and operation levy, the EPO. The current levy was approved in February of 2018, and it was for 4 years in duration. And that's, it will expire in December of 2022. So in order to renew that levy, it will need to be voted upon in calendar year 2022, starting with the 2023 calendar year. And there've been a number of changes since that initial levy was approved, just besides the name. But OSPI now is requesting that we have a levy expenditure plan that is actually approved by OSPI. So that will need to be developed. And then the other item is that now a local voters pamphlet is required for every levy ballot proposition. And so what's interesting about that is that the school board is supposed to appoint pro levy committee members and con levy committee members. So our bond counsel, Jim McNeil, our levy counsel attorney, will draft the notification. We'll put that in the newspaper, and then probably in the first meeting in December, I would think that the board would appoint these committee members. And if they are willing and want to, they can write a for statement for the levy, and those that want to write an oppose to the levy. Now, of course, the school board does not get involved in those for or against, but our job as the board, your job is to actually appoint those committee members. So we'll ask for input from the community, and those that want to be appointed on the committee, we will have a motion for the board to do that. And the timing is getting to be a little critical for us. School boards can run levies 4 times during a calendar year, and in February or April, August or November. And our typical pattern has been to run the levy in February. If that is the case, then we have to have a resolution approved by the board and submitted to Benton County and Klickitat County by December 10th. It just so happens that December 8th would be our first meeting in December. And so the decisions the board needs to make are, number one, the duration. Just want to start thinking about this, the duration, whether it's 2, 3, or 4 years. The past 2 levies have been 4 years in duration. All the levies prior to that were 2 years in duration. So it could be 2, 3, or 4 years. Also on the ballot is an estimated levy rate per $1,000 of assessed valuation. And the last item is the amount of collection. So that rate times the assessed valuation generates X dollars of levy revenue to the district, or excess property taxes. So those are the critical items, are the rate, the duration, and the amount of collections. Now, I've been in contact with the assessor for Klickitat and Benton County, and they, as far as 2022, of course, it's just an estimate. They don't have the actual rates yet. They won't know that until January. So it's really an estimate of what the valuation of the school district's property has increased in both counties. And the other piece that's a little more difficult is there's also a component of state assessed value that's also included in the district's valuation. So I have a preliminary number from Klickitat and Benton counties but not the state assessed. So some of this is our best estimate. You know, we look at history, we try to look at new housing, those kind of things. That makes a 4-year levy a little more difficult, to be honest with you, because, we don't know what's going to happen in 3 or 4 years from now. So there is some pros and cons for maybe having a 2 or even a 3-year levy as opposed to a 4-year levy. Again, some of the, and Matt, you can chime in on some of this, some of the pros and cons are, of course, if you do it every 2 years, it's like, it just seems like we just passed this levy or we voted on the levy. And that issue also with the evaluation of estimating, what's going to happen in 3 or 4 years from now.
It's about $20,000 to go through the process and put something on the ballot. So as Craig had talked about, there are different durations and different rates that we can run it at. I think that the primary thing that's important when you're looking at a levy, I think, is that you're able to pass it. So if you get into the position where it's a double failure, of course there are risks involved there with cutting programs. A lot of what we do with this money is athletics, extracurriculars, technology, safety and security. We can list them out, but without those levy funds, it basically we take a hit and have to absorb that. We can only do it for a certain amount of time before it would be, there have to be a conversation about it. It's not sustainable anymore. So that's I think part of the discussion. Of course, if you go back in time, we were able to set rates locally. When the McCleary decision was made, the state across the board said you can, the top of that is $1.50. Now they've kind of eased off that a little bit, and you can through property evaluation. Yeah, so you can run it a little bit. We can get a little bit more at $2.50. But initially, when we took that stance, sustainability was one of the conversations that we were talking about. That there just wasn't enough money to meet the end of the month, basically, for the long haul. I think when we're talking about years here, and so that'll be part of the task to define the term and the rate. And really, it's a kind of an unpredictable time with COVID. People have been out of work. One of the other tricky things is that the four-year levy rate was the reason why the board at that time, and this is before I was here, it was, I think that there was some true wisdom behind it, but it was to lock in a levy rate and then basically get a bond rate. And so those tax rates wouldn't be in conflict. You wouldn't pass a bond and then go back out to the taxpayers of the community and say, oh, and, so it felt like it would feel like nickel and dime. So I think there's some strategy there, but the rate is important, the duration's important, and how long. Just as Craig said, if you ever get into a pickle, sometimes it's better to have a short term so we can say we can adjust some of this. So yeah, just I think it's something worth deeply considering, and like Craig said, we'll be on the clock, and so we need to make some decisions about it fairly quickly to get the resolution passed, and then do the work associated with that.
So I guess our recommendation is that we have a study session, a special meeting where we look at numbers and assessments and actually come to a rate determination and total collection amount and duration. Those are the big.
Would the board consider that first week in December is a week that we might be able to set a meeting for?
Well,
or the end of November.
Yeah, I would really like, I know we're on a real tight timeline, and I did kind of the looking at our drop dead date to get the past resolution ballot back to the county or to the state is December 12th. Jim McNeil has to have time,
December 10th.
or excuse me, the 10th. Jim McNeil has to have time to write that resolution for us. But the closest board meeting that we would have to formally pass that resolution conceivably would be the meeting on the 8th of December. There wouldn't be time at our next, you rocking back and forth. At our next board meeting to do it, and I'd like our new folks on board to be part of that special meeting as we sit and talk about that. So I would like some thought and some feedback on having that special study session on the Tuesday after the Thanksgiving holiday instead of the Monday. And that would allow us that travel time for people that are going someplace. If we did it on a Tuesday, and then we could sit down and have that study session, special meeting to really go through all of this and set the duration and the rate and talk about the needs. And then be able to present that as bring that back and be able to pass a resolution at our December 8th meeting. Does that work for, well, it works for Jeannie. Elise is here. Well, I'm just, right, but I'm just looking at a study session so that we have a chance to really talk about it, think about it. I'd like to get Jason's input on it too. So if that works, would that work for Jim McNeil, do you think? Would that, I know he usually likes to have
Well,
2 weeks.
He can
but-
draft a resolution with
I know, but he
no
usually
blanks
likes
for
2
the
weeks,
amount.
so.
The other issue is getting the blessing from OSPI.
Yeah, I know.
You know, there's going
I
to be a bunch of other districts running the same
Right.
levy.
Right. And
so
the
we wanna-
reason that I like the February, because if I'm correct, our dates are February, April,
August
or August or
or
November.
September.
But ideally, most districts go out in February because then we all share the election cost. And so that cuts the cost down for all of the districts to that probably $20,000 to run that election. If we are a lone wolf that goes out like in April or August, we're incurring all of the costs. And so it's better to go out with the majority rather than go out as a minority, so.
And just statistically, the results are higher in February. There are
Okay.
some anomalies, just for the record, there were
Yeah.
some, like 3 levies that were passed like 2 years ago,
Right.
100% in
Right.
April. It was like 3. So there are some statistics, but for the lion's share,
Right. That would give
the
us,
February rate or date is a higher percentage. passage.
that would give us time to get information to our two new incoming board members too. So does that work? Would that work for you, Jeannie? Alicia?
I can have all sorts of data, you know,
Okay.
different estimates of valuation and rates and, you know, as much as we need to.
And
to
it
really
would be
talk
nice
about
if
it.
that special meeting could be at 6 instead of at 7. That works? All right, I'll talk with Jason and make sure that works for him too. Yeah, I'll let. well, you do that too.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yeah, and then we can all maybe have something like this, Craig, like this is what we used last time. We can look at information flyers that we've used in the past and, okay, thank you. All right. So next on our agenda is the district boundary report, and I believe that's you, Mr. Ellis.
Yeah, there's so the B section of Whitstrand school lease, this is just to circle back around. And so we stuck with the guidance that the board gave us and went out for a short-term lease. This is kind of the information
there is the byproduct of that. So initially, what Craig and I had done, or what we've heard from the board, is that a shorter duration lease was preferable because of the construction and bonding, the design bid build process that will be taking place at Woodstrand in the near future. So that's circling back around on that. The C district boundary report. We worked with a company by the name of Smamish Data Solutions. We're required, there is actually a RCW about it, when there's a census, to consider the census data and consider if district boundary lines need to be redrawn. And so this is part of that. There is a resolution process to this, and it's much like budget, where there has to be a hearing, and there will be a resolution, and we have to post for that. So this was kind of just an informational discussion item. Of course, Smamish Data Solutions, part of that process was to ask for not only sitting board members, but people who were running for office, so that they could draw those lines appropriate, lest they be accused of gerrymandering or something along those lines. And so I can get a comparison of what the district boundary lines are versus the new map, but they have shifted a little bit, I think, in a couple districts to accommodate that information from the census. So, and then the last portion that we'll be bringing to the board, it's more of a discussion portion, and Kevin Lutz can kind of talk through this a little better if he has anything to share. At the new high school, streaming video over COVID has become something that obviously is important, and their community has liked, and that has allowed them to engage and connect with our school. And so we're considering basically some hardware and software that would allow games to be streamed. It'd be a permanent fixture, and we'd be working with the company on a contract, but they would attach cameras within the gymnasium so that we could stream it out, and this company would actually do that for us. We do believe that there could potentially be some cost savings in this decision, but the hardware would be a fixture within that, and there would be an agreement that comes along with it that we'd be bringing to the board. Kevin, do you have anything to add on that?
This was a consideration that we had probably a year and a half ago when we were getting back at things, trying to figure out how we were going to provide those streaming opportunities. There were multiple different ways. YouTube is one option. We chose Just the Game, which was an option that gave us a lot of flexibility. This was one that was available at the time, but the price ticket was about $5,000 per camera that we would have had to pay. So we didn't choose that one at that time. They've now restructured their part in working with WIAA to provide this service. It was a perfect opportunity. So we'd be able to mount this one at the stadium, one in the main gym, one in the second gym. Could be provided for any activities that happened there, but also could be for other activities as graduation, etc. that we can use. But they're automated systems. They don't have to be manned. There's a lot of benefits with that.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
If there are any questions about that, please let me know or Kevin know. Again, this is one of the options that we're considering.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We're going to shortly adjourn the regular meeting. We are going to move into executive session to discuss the current appraisals of district property. That session will last us about 45 minutes. It is RCW 42-30-110C. That is the correct one? Okay. And at the end of that 45 minutes, we will adjourn from executive session, move back into the regular meeting, and adjourn for the evening. So is there any questions on that part of it? Okay. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn from the regular meeting to move into the executive session and And again, it'll be for 45 minutes. I think we'll take a 5-minute break before we go into the executive session, however.
Motion to adjourn from the regular meeting and move into the executive meeting.
Okay, so 8:10,
I'll
we're going,
second that.
okay, so that's Mark. And Jesselyn, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Hi.
All
Aye.
yes. And we will come back into executive session here at 8:15. 8:15, and we will be in executive session until 9 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Thanks, boys. Did you ever get the COVID? See? Uh-huh. Did you?